Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video we are going to begin working on our next project, a project called Arkanoid. Well, we're going to make something that kind of looks like Arkanoid. If you're not aware of what Arkanoid is, let me show you. So Arkanoid is a game from, I think 1986 is when it first came out for the NES. It is a game where there's a ball that is hitting bricks and it hits a paddle, and you can bounce the ball off the paddle, and when the bricks get hit they disappear. We're going to make a very simple version of this game. If you're thinking this looks a lot like Pong, then you're right. This does look a lot like Pong, and the reason why we're working on this project is because we're going to review a lot of the concepts that we learned in Pong, and we're going to add a couple things that we need in order for this game to work the way it's supposed to. So we're going to mostly review, but we're also going to learn a couple of new concepts. Okay, so in this video I want to start with creating the project and then establishing the things that we've already learned that we can reuse for this project. Okay, so let's switch to our 2D view here. Now, if you noticed in that screenshot or in that GIF that I just showed you, Arkanoid is played vertically, so it's not a horizontal game. It's played vertically. So let's set up our screen so that it is vertical as opposed to horizontal. Let's go to our project settings, go to our window. I'm going to set mine up so that it is, let's say, 500 wide by 800 tall. I think that's a good size. That I might actually shrink that. Let's do 400. We'll try 500. Let's see if my original instinct makes sense. And then let's change our background color. I'm going to go with pure white again. Just makes sense. Okay, that looks about what I want. Let's run the game real quick. Oh, actually, we need to create a scene and save the scene before we do that. So let's create our scene. I'm going to call it game. Let's save our scene and let's run it real quick, and we'll select the current. Okay, that's about the right size. That makes sense to me. Okay, perfect. So our scene is set up. Perfect. Let's go ahead and start working on the ball. Let me grab my notes over here. So the ball is going to be just like the ball that we created for Pong. It's pretty much the exact same thing. So we need a new scene. This is going to be a rigid body 2D. We'll name it ball. I'm going to go through these steps faster than I did last time because we've already done them. So this is just a review. I need a sprite 2D, and I need a collision shape 2D. The sprite is going to be our icon again. This ball, this is going to be way too big for our game. Let's shrink it down to, let's say, a third of the size. Let's change its visibility so that it is black instead of the normal color. Let's set our collision shape to be the proper size for our ball. Okay, perfect. And let's go ahead and create a new script for the ball as well. I'm going to save my new ball scene before we get too far ahead. Okay, perfect. So the ball script is going to be roughly the same as what we had last time. We actually can reuse a lot of the same ideas. Let's export a variable called x speed. I'm going to set it to, let's say, 200. Oh, I forgot the P here. Let's export a variable called y speed, and I'm going to set it to negative, I don't know, 300. And remember, negative means we're going up. Okay, let's create a variable called velocity. And inside of our ready function, let's set the velocity to equal a new vector 2, okay, of x speed and y speed. Beautiful. And then let's set our position in the game world to another vector 2. And
attention cadets and
sorry about that. I had to pause because there was an announcement. All right, so we're going to set our position at the beginning of the game to, let's say, 250 on the X, which is halfway in between, right? Because our width is 500, so we'll set it 250 on the X, and we'll go 600 on the Y. So not all the way at the bottom, but close enough to the bottom that it makes sense. Okay, then let's set up our movement and our collision. So this is going to be exactly the same as what we did in the Pong project. So var collision equals move and collide, velocity times delta. If collision, then velocity equals velocity dot bounce, and we're going to set it to collision dot get normal. That way we're bouncing off of the things that we bump into. Okay, let's go ahead and save our scenes, and let's go to the game scene and let's instantiate our ball. Okay, and because we're setting its position, we actually can just keep it right there, or we can move it. It's fine. When we play the game, it's going to automatically put it where it's supposed to go. So let's try that. Perfect. Put the ball where it's supposed to go, and it goes off in a direction. Beautiful. Okay, so we already know how to set up boundaries around our game. Let's do that. So we'll create a new static body. We'll call it boundaries. And let's create some collisions. So collision shape 2D, create. We'll call this one left. We'll add a shape to it, new rectangular shape. And let's set it up so that it reaches across the entire left side. Okay, we'll create a new collision shape. We'll call this right. And let's add a shape to it, a rectangle. And we'll push this over. And there we go. And then we'll add another one, and we'll call it top. All right, we'll add a shape to it, and we'll put this across. Now we don't want one on the bottom, because when we collide with the bottom, we want to reset the level. That's something that we're going to have to learn how to do in this project. That's one of the new concepts we're going to learn, but we'll leave the bottom open for now, so that, you know, we can change that. We can set that up later. And let's actually, oh, hold on. Let's move the ball out of the way real quick so that we're not automatically colliding with some things. And let's test it out and make sure that our ball can actually bounce off of these walls. Perfect. Bouncy, bouncy. All right, good, good, good. So now that's working. Now, let's add in our paddle. That's the last thing that we probably can do without needing to review or needing to learn new concepts. So let's go ahead and add in a new paddle. So, new scene. This is going to be a character body, just like last time. And let's call it paddle. Let's add a child node, and we need a sprite. And we also need a collision shape. So for the sprite, we're going to use this icon as well. Let's set it up so that it is, let's do, we'll keep it the same on the X, but we want to do, let's say, 0.5? No. Let's do 0.3. Okay, that's more paddle shaped. Let's set its visibility. Okay, perfect. And the collision shape, let's set that up as well. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Awesome. Now we need to write our script. Okay. Now in the paddle script, this is actually going to be super simple. Let's go ahead and delete all of this. We don't need any of this. We actually probably could have kept the physics process delta function, but we'll write it in ourselves. That's fine. Okay, var speed equals 500. You can change the speed if you like. I kind of like 500. Let's actually export that as well so we can easily change it whenever we want. Okay. And then let's create our physics process delta function. Now, this is something we haven't really talked about yet, but there's a process function and a physics process function. The physics process function is what you're going to want to use anytime there's movement on your screen. Now, I know I'm saying that while I have a process function that's moving our ball around. We technically could change this to a physics process, and it would be a lot smoother. It'd be a lot better. So that's probably what we should do. That's the best practice. Physics processes are going to be, they're going to handle the frame calculation a lot better when it comes to physical movement. All right, let's go back to the paddle. So physics process. All we need to do is, we need to set up our inputs first. So let's go to our input settings, so our input map. Let's add two new events, left and right. So it's even easier than Pong because this is a single player game. So we'll do the left arrow for our left, and we'll do the right arrow for the right. Okay, so now all we got to do is check for those inputs. So if input dot is action pressed, and we'll do the left first, then we're going to move and collide. It'll be a vector 2. And in the Pong project, we were moving up and down. So we set our x to 0 because we didn't want to move back and forth. In this, we're moving back and forth, so we're going to set our x to the movement, and our y will be set to 0. So for this, it's going to be x speed multiplied by delta, and then 0 on the y. And we'll do the same thing for moving right. So we'll change this to right, and we'll change this to positive speed. That's it. That's the whole script. So let's go ahead and save this scene so that we have now a paddle object. Let's go into our game, and let's instantiate the paddle. And let's put it where we want it to go. So let's go to our transform properties, and the position, we want it to be at 250 on the X to start with because we want it to start in the direct middle. And let's put it at 700. Okay, maybe let's do 750. That way it's closer to the bottom. All right, let's test our game. Oh, what just happened there? That was interesting. I know what happened. Can you think about what we might have just done? What might have just happened to our game? Our ball used to work properly, but now it kind of just... Here's why. I lied to you. Usually, I use physics processes when I'm dealing with physical movement in a game. The problem is, what I forgot was if we change this to a physics process, then it's going to apply things like gravity and all kinds of other stuff that we kind of don't want. So let's actually move this back to a process function so that we don't actually apply gravity to this thing. And we have full control over our actual movement in the game. Wow, that was embarrassing. But, hey, mistakes are made. People make mistakes all the time. I'm going to leave this in because, it's good to see, people making mistakes, even people who've been, doing game development for decades, right? And mistakes are kind of how you learn, right? So now we know if we want to not apply gravity, we want to use the process. There we go. Now it's working the way it should. And I can move my paddle back and forth, and the ball bounces off of the paddle, And let's see. Let's let it just kind of... All right, and now my game should be resetting, but it's not because we haven't actually told it how to do that yet. So this is a pretty good place to stop. Everything that we've done in this video so far, none of it's new. It's all basically a review of what we've done in Pong. In the next video, we're going to add some new features to this game. We're going to change it so that when the ball leaves the bottom of the level, it actually restarts the level. We're also going to add some bricks up here that whenever the ball collides with the bricks delete. I think that's probably about as much as we have time for. We may not be able to add anything else, but that's a pretty good it's a pretty good project in my opinion. So I'll see you in the next video. All right, thanks for paying attention.